Okay, so you have a leak in a water line in your RV and you want to fix it by yourself. Here's how to do that. By the way, if you don't know, my name is Emily. I'm a certified mobile RV repair tech, and this is RV Repairwoman. Okay, so step one is going to be to figure out what connection in your RV is causing the leak. Usually people will call me, they find a puddle on the floor, and they say they have a water leak. Water leaks can be a little tricky to track down because water falls from one point to another and gets things wet. So sometimes you think you found which connection is leaking because it's wet, and it's actually that something above it is leaking. I've had that happen more than once. The easiest way that I have found to track down leaks is to just start covering every connection point around where we think the leak might be with paper towels. Usually then I just wait a couple hours, come back, look at the paper towels, and a lot of times that'll help tell the story of where this water is coming from. Once you found the connection that you think is your culprit, you're then going to want to look and see how much slack you have in the pipes surrounding this connection point. Basically, getting that connection point out of there can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So if you have enough slack that you can just cut this guy out, that is usually an option you want to go, just because getting these guys out can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So if you have enough slack, you can just go ahead and take any old PVC pipe cutter. I've got the fancy brand, but they do not need to be a fancy brand. And you're just going to go ahead and cut right here and just boop, remove this guy and then replace him. I'll talk at this point in the video about how to replace him. And if you fall into that camp, here's how to remove this PEX connector without having to cut these PEX lines, okay? So you're gonna need a special tool. You're gonna go to the plumbing section of your Lowe's or Home Depot, and they should have a tool that looks like this. He's got a removable head on him that has a groove in it. You're gonna go ahead and take that groove and place it over the head of one of your crimp connectors. And then you just snap on the handle. Sometimes you can get this on without having to take it off the handle. I just find a lot of the times that space is really limited. So that's an easy hack if you're finding it difficult to get enough space to finagle this guy in there. Once he's on, you're then just gonna wiggle this guy back and forth. Go one way, then go the other way. And you're gonna do that a couple of times. Until eventually that crimp connector gives way and you can just slide that bad boy out of your way. Once you remove that crimp connector, sometimes you're able to just slide this bad boy right off. Other times he is stuck on there. If that's the case for you, then a heat gun is going to be your best friend. Apply a little bit of heat, this guy should open up and you should be able to slide him off. Once you've removed the PEX connector, you then have two options on how to replace him. If and when I can, I find myself reaching for these SharkBite connectors. These guys come in right angles, 45s if you need them, couplers if you need to extend a tube, and they are super easy to use. You're literally just gonna press them in. So press on one side, press on the other, and you're good to go. I love these things for how fast and easy they are. They are more expensive than the second option.
Editing Emily here. It's apparently been a very, very long time since I ordered one of these as a single pack. Apparently, these now cost $8 to $12 a piece if you want to buy them one at a time, which is absolutely insane. But in my opinion, still kind of worth it for how much of a hassle crimping PEX connectors is. So that's up to you. You gotta decide if that $8 to $12 is worth it. I think it is. Wow, these should not cost that much.
If you're gonna start using these SharkBite connectors, I recommend getting the really super easy disconnect tool. Without this guy, it is really hard to pull these pipes back out if you need to for whatever reason. And with this guy, you just pop him on, press him against the coupler, and then this guy pops right out. Love that. Can't tell you how much I wish I had bought this the first time I used these.
Yeah, this guy costs over $2 now. Absolutely insane. Should not be that expensive. It's still worth it, but oh wow, why are things so expensive now? And note that if you are a mechanic or someone who works on cars and you already have a fuel line disconnect tool, if you have one that's roughly the right size, that'll work exactly the same.
as the PEX tool, just to keep you from buying another tool if you don't need it. I will say I've had customers in the past say that they have tried these and not liked them because they thought that they leaked. I think that's just people not using them correctly. When you go to push them in, you're gonna feel an initial resistance and be like, oh, I did it. No, 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 you need to push in a little farther. There you go. Push until you can push no more. Then you know that you have this guy securely on. But that's option number one, these SharkBite connectors. I absolutely love these. They have saved me so much time as a tech. And when it comes to being a tech, time is money, and it is worth it for me to pay a little bit more for these guys. But there are some applications where you just can't use these guys, like when you are connecting a PEX line to these swivel connectors, for instance. SharkBite, to my knowledge, doesn't have this type of adapter yet. Maybe someday. So here's how you would redo a PEX line if you needed to. So you're gonna head to the plumbing aisle of Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever you like. They're gonna have a whole bunch of different PEX adapters that you can use. They have T adapters, they have couplers if you need to extend a line. They've got right angles if you need to make a turn. They have these swivel adapters for like attaching to the back of your water heater, both in straight and in right angles. While you're at the plumbing aisle, go ahead and get whichever adapter that you need. You're also going to need these crimps. You're looking for the 1/2 inch size. Usually in RVs, they do come in multiple sizes. This is the 3/4 inch. This is the 1/2 inch. You want the 1/2 inch. And you're going to need a PEX crimper tool. If you have the time and this isn't an emergency, I would actually order this tool from Amazon as opposed to getting it at Lowe's. The one at Lowe's cost over 60 bucks. And I've used this one from Amazon that was $20 and it worked totally fine. Once you have all of these parts and you're back in your RV, you're then gonna go ahead and take your little crimps and you're gonna put one on each line that you're gonna use. This is the step that I always forget. I usually try to put the coupler on first and then realize I've forgotten to put these on and I shake my fist at the world. So put the circles on first. Then go ahead and put on your adapter. So here's our new right angle, boop. You're then gonna wanna make sure that you turn the head of the crimp towards wherever it's gonna be easiest for you to get to it. Don't have this thing up here and be fighting it. Turn it towards you so it's nice and easy. You're then gonna pull out your crimper tool and see that it has a nice mouth at the front. Make that mouth as big as possible. Put the mouth around the head of the crimp and then squeeze. Ah. Do it to one side and then do it to the other. When you do those crimps, you want to make sure that this little crimp guy is pushed up against these little legs. It's okay, it'll probably walk out a little bit when you do the crimp, but these little legs are helping make sure that you've got this guy placed correctly. So right about here, totally fine. We just want to make sure that this guy isn't way out here when we go and do that crimp. But that's super simple. See, we got a new right angle, put in this guy, no problem. That is relatively easy to do while we're out here in the open and with these practice pieces like I showed you. Where this can get a little trickier is when you're in a very tight space and it's hard to get this tool up in there exactly and you're using your full vocabulary by the end of the project, which is also why I tend to reach for these when I can. Hashtag not sponsored. This was just life-changing when I started my business. Also, while these guys are cheaper per part, you do need specialized tools in order to work with them. A big note here, when you go to start using these crimp connectors, you are going to be very tempted to try to use flexible hosing to make some of these turns. You're like, ugh, they made so many right angles to get where they needed to be. If I just got a flexible hose, I could skip all of those connections and then my life would be so much better. It will not. These crimp connections were made to be used on rigid tubing like this. If you put them on flexible hose tubing, it will probably work for a short amount of time. And then you will very quickly start getting leaks again. The only time that you should see flexible tubing being used in the plumbing of your RV is with pre-made lines. So this is good. A line that's clearly pre-made by the factory. It has a connection that does not look like a PEX connector. You cannot make this kind of pipe. This is bad. Just taking your own hose, taking a swivel connector, shoving it in there, and then trying to crimp a PEX on here. That's never gonna work. And a final note on flexible tubing, my local Lowe's and Home Depot do not sell this kind of hose with this nice big swivel head on it. What they do sell, and what I've tried to use in the past, are faucet hose extenders. These do not work in RVs. The head on them isn't long enough, and so even though this guy will screw on to the same size connection that this guy will, there isn't enough throat here, and he will just spray water everywhere, and you will be wet and sad. Ask me how I know that. So save you some time, save you some money. Don't try to use these. I know it sucks, but these crimp connectors were not made to be used with flexible tubing. And if you have a newer RV, there's a chance that you will start looking at the plumbing in your RV and you will see some manufacturers have started using, from the factory, flexible tubing with these crimp connectors. That is just flat out incorrect. It's wrong. It will break down eventually and it will start leaking eventually. So if you're getting a leak from somewhere where a flexible tube has been crimped on to a rigid connection like this, go ahead and just replace the whole flexible tube. Don't try to put in more flexible tubing. It'll just lead you down a path of sadness, misery, and woe. And we are not about that life here at RV Repairwoman. If you found this video helpful, please consider hitting subscribe. I put out new videos like this every week, giving you the RV tips and tricks that most techs don't want you to know. This has been RV Repairwoman. You got this.